Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Sawa siwak. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. Nawa'ina ta'alluma wa ta'alim wa tadhakkura wa tazkir wa nafa' wal intifa' wal ifada wal istifada wal hatha ala tamassuki bi kitabillahi wa sunnati rasulih sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam wa du'a ila al-huda wa dalala al khair ibtigha'a wajhillah wa mardatihi wa qurbihi wa thawabihi subhanahu wa ta'ala ma'a lutfin وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمدلله رب العالمين آمين. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay. Today we're going to do revision. Today we only have revision going on today. Not so sure why the Adobe is not. Okay. Today do it. Why? For your upcoming exam. Okay. Basically for the last exam, anyone who would like to get their papers right, I'll give you a choice. Of course, I don't think the masjid is gonna take the papers, and I don't think it's gonna be placed at the masjid. So it's all at my house. So if you want your papers from last semester, your Akidah and also your fiqh papers, and so either if you want, you can come down to my house at Kemangan, or easier, you just message me your address by personally, and I'll post it to you lah. No problem. It's papers anyway. Right, so it's gonna be. I mean, the postage it's not gonna be a lot. It's gonna be like a normal stamp. That's all, a few cents, right, to get it posted over. Right, so I'll just post lah. Right, so I will anybody who wants their papers, just give me their probably I'll put a deadline lah, maybe by today lah. I'll post out on the WhatsApp group. Anybody wants their exam papers, so by today I will give me your address so that tomorrow working day, right? So tomorrow I can post it out. It can get to you by Tuesday. So if I post it up before 2 p.m. on Monday, you can get it before. Or if I post it before 5 p.m. on Monday, you get it before afternoon on Tuesday. So at least you have the entire week if you want to look at it. Right, so anyone who wants their papers, easier so lah, just give me your address. But if you live nearby, if you're somewhere near Kemangan area and you want to come by my house and take your papers, okay, no problem. And just text me first lah before you come. Okay. Alright. So anyone has any questions? Any specific part that you need me to go through again? Any? Waalaikumsalam.
I'm Sakina here, but I'm very poor in my IT. So can I just write down the answers and WhatsApp to you on the copy and then WhatsApp to you the answers channel? Because I'm not familiar about typing.
Oh, not familiar with typing
Because my typing is very slow already. So I sort of writing all the answers on the paper then WhatsApp to you.
Can. So the open-ended, I mean, because the rest of it is MCQ. MCQ you just pick. You just click down easy lah. Can just click. So any part whereby there is writing, you write it down lah. I can. You write it down, then you take picture, then you send it to me Take a picture nah.
Is the exam will be the same link that we are using now, is it?
I will meet you here, then I'll give you another link whereby you will click on and you will go to the form. It's like Google quiz. It's basically Google quiz. Yeah. If you want I can give you I have like exam papers from before, like from other courses, not from Majahalin, other courses. I have exam papers. If you want to see how it's done, like the format more or less the same. So I can send out the link and you can practice. This is not Safinah Najah. It is a fiqh book. It's a fiqh book. It's called Zakhara Musharrafah, which I did under the Tarim Daura. So I can send out to you all if you have like a see how it's gonna be like. Online exam. So I'll send it out inshallah later on, the link, and you can kind of practice lah, on it and see how how you find it. Okay, inshallah. Okay. Alright, any specific questions anybody wants to ask with regards to the chapters? So begin from here, from the beginning of the prayer, the salat. Okay. Anyone has any specific questions?
So that I need from like on page 66.
Page 66, Okay, can.
Yeah.
Now, okay, for sujud sahwi. Alright, so we go down to page 66, right here. Okay, section, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, section, the causes for sajda sahwi, for sujud sahwi. Frustration or forgetfulness are four. So there are four reasons why you can go down into doing sujud sahwi. The first is to leave out some of the sunnah ab'ad. Sunnah ab'ad, they are the main sunnahs, right? And later on they will speak about what are these sunnahs, either completely or partially. So either you have left the entire sunnah altogether or partially. So like for example, doa kunut. And so doa kunut is one of the sunnah ab'ad. The other sunnah ab'ad is tahiyatul ula, the first tahiyah. And basically these are the only two. Right, these are the only two sunnah ab'ad. And then the rest of the commentary will be parts of it. Right, parts of these two main two sunnah ab'ad. So in the kunut, right, leaving out salawat onto the Prophet ﷺ while standing is part of leaving out the sunnah ab'ad. Leaving out salawat onto the family of Rasulullah ﷺ is also part of leaving out sunnah ab'ad. And then leaving out sending salams onto Rasulullah ﷺ is part of leaving out sunnah ab'ad. Right, so I'm going to where's my annotation? Okay, I'm going to write it out aside so that it will assist you in summarization. Right, so the whole thing about exam and everything is to learn to summarize. And once you have learned to summarize and you have learned to memorize, the whole point is about memorizing also, because this is fiqh. Fiqh is basically memorization. Why? Because it is an ongoing application. So if let's say it happens to you in your prayer, you can't stop your prayer, open your books, check your book, see what's the hukum, what's the ruling, and then come back to your prayer, right? If it happens then you have to know then what to do, correct? Which is why fiqh is all memorization. You must memorize. Not necessarily you must memorize, because it is immediate application. When things happen, immediately kena apply. You have to apply. Right? So when we speak about sunnah ab'ad, right, there are two types. Okay, I'm going to speak about two types of sunnah ab'ad. You have two main ones, which is kunut. Okay, so kunut for subuh. Okay, the kunut here, okay, let me just make it thinner, something. The kunut here is subuh, right, second rakaat, and also the witir of Ramadan. There is also the sunnah ab'ad. It's also sunnah ab'ad. Witir, I put R, witir Ramadan. In the second half of Ramadan, there is sunnah mu'akkadah to do kunut in the last rakaat of witir. All our masjids will do it. All of our masjids will do it. There's kunut. And then you have the first at-tahiyah. Right, the first at-tahiyah. Okay, from there, I'm going to draw a few more lines out. So, of the kunut. So, either a person misses out the kunut altogether. So, they say, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, Rabbana lakal hamd, hamdan kathiran tayyiban barakan fih. And then, Allahu Akbar, they go into ruku', they go into sujud. They miss out the kunut altogether. right, that will call for them to do sujud sahwi, or part of the kunut. And what are parts of the kunut? First and foremost, right, first one is to stand, right, to stand during, right, the entire length. The entire length of kunut. That means the whole kunut you're standing. Alright, so if any part of the kunut a person begins to move down to sujood, right, then they have done part of the kunut not standing. That would require for them to perform sujud sahwi sunnah, right, sujud sahwi, right, because they didn't. It's not counted. They finished the whole kunut. It is not counted. They finished the whole kunut standing. Right. Second one is to salawat onto the Prophet. Salawat on Prophet. Right. If someone misses out salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, then that would also that is part of the kunut. And if you miss it out, so when someone says Allahumma hdina fi man hadait wa afina fi man afait wa tawallana fi man tawallait, all the way down, فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يعز من وليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعالى فلك الحمد على ما قضيت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Okay, someone stops there, Allahu Akbar, and then sujud. Right? They do not say Wasallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin. They don't do that part. They don't just Wasallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin. That means their kunut is deficient. It is part of kunut. Right, the kunut is deficient, right, and then if the sujood, right, then that means that will require for them sunnah, right, to perform sujud sahwi later on, right, or as they say wasallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin, they're on their way down to sujud. It means they're not standing while doing the salawat. So not standing while doing the salawat is counted as they have left the salawat, and they must do the salawat while standing. Okay, salawat onto the Prophet, and then salawat, like, on the family, right, of the Prophet. Okay, salawat on the family of the Prophet. And the last section of kunut will be, I'm just put it here, right, salams. Salams on the Prophet. Right. Salams on the Prophet. If you memorize the kunut as how it's given to you in books, you cover everything lah. Because you will say Wasallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad Nabil Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Right, so if you memorize the whole thing already has salawat on the Prophet, on the family, and salams. The whole salawat at the end of kunut has all of them. Right, so if at any point in time, so when somebody says Wasallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi, and they begin to move down, right, they're not standing anymore, they begin to move down, then the salams is being done not standing. They have moved already, right? So if they do that, right, then the sunnah of them to do sujud sahwi after that. Okay, that is for the kunut and the parts of kunut. Okay, this is how you can memorize things. You have to memorize two things. What are ab'ad of the prayer? These two things, kunut and the first tahiyah. Okay, what about kunut? Okay, kunut, either they miss out the whole kunut, right, or one of these red things that I have written down. Okay, they missed out any of these things, right, that would call for them to do sujud sahwi. Then later on I'll just mention a bit about sujud sahwi, whether it was left on purpose or whether it was left neglectfully or forgetfully, right. Then what do you say during sujud sahwi? Right, so you say, if it was left on purpose, you say astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah 3 times because you purposely left it. And sujud sahwi, automatically, whenever we say sujud sahwi, it is understood. It is understood. We are talking about 2 sujuds. Okay, there is no need to say it in both sujud. Like it's understood. Sujud sahwi. What is sujud sahwi? 2 sujuds. Is that how I say what is zuhur? I don't have to say zuhur all the 4 rak'ats of zuhur. I don't have to say that, right? But when I say zuhur, by the definition of zuhur, it means what? 4 rak'ats. Correct? If I say maghrib, by the definition of maghrib, it means 3 rak'ats. So when I say sujud sahwi, by the definition of sujud sahwi, it means 2 sujuds. Same thing with tayammum. If you say tayammum, by the definition of tayammum, it means wipe face and arms. There's a definition of tayammum. The definition of tayammum does not mean to wipe with sand. No. The definition of tayammum is to wipe the face and arms with sand with a specific intention in specific situations. That's the whole definition. So when I say the word tayammum, is understood. What is tayammum? So I don't have to say, so there should not be any misunderstanding when I say after, if you have a bandage. Well, alhamdulillah, this semester, the tayammum was last semester. This semester, no tayammum questions. All the tayammum mas'ala, the issues of the tayammum is last lesson, last semester. But if let's say, I want to say, I have a bandage on my arm. So then how do I take wudu? Remember I said to you all, right, that you do your wudu, then when you reach the place but you can't wash, you wash what you can, then you do tayammum on behalf of that spot. What does it mean by do tayammum on behalf of that spot? Doesn't mean they take sand and you rub the spot. Doesn't mean that. It means you do a full tayammum because of that spot that is not accounted for. Right? So you do a full tayammum of face and arms. Will the tayammum be deficient? If it's on the hands, probably deficient as well. So which is why it leads you to qada later on. You have to qada later on. But that is last semester. I hope you all revise, mashallah. After this book, you're going to go into Muqaddimah Hadramiyah. We will repeat the whole thing all over again. That's the best thing about fiqh. You do books after books after books. So even if you don't revise, you're forced to revise. Because all the other books will speak about the previous book and they put a whole lot more on what you have learned. So you're just learning layer after layer on top of layer. If every layer you learn, the next book will teach you that layer again and then add on more stuff into the next layer. Okay, at-tahiyya. Okay, for at-tahiyya, I'm changing color so it's clearer. I use pink lah. Okay, so for at-tahiyya, right, first and foremost, seated. Right, to be seated throughout. Right, so not to be standing while you're still saying your first at-tahiyya. To be seated throughout. Second is to salawat on the Prophet. Okay? Salawat only. Not and on the Prophet only. Not salams, not on the family. Right? Because the first at-tahiyya is supposed to be short. Okay, the first at-tahiyya is supposed to be short. Salawat, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. Stand. Okay, so there is no Ali Muhammad, there is no wasallim, there is no salams, and there is no on the family. Only on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam salawat and then go up. Stand. Okay, there is no extension. Alright, so hope that one is clear. Dah lah, tu je. Right, that's the first one. Okay, so sunnah abad, what are they? Either they miss the person after sujud in second rakat, got up standing straight away, Allahu Akbar, they missed out the entire at-tahiyya, or they sat. And they say at-tahiyyatul mubarakatul salawatul tayyibatul lillah, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna muhammadar rasulullah, Allahu Akbar. They left out the salawat. They left out the salawat, or while they're standing, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, while standing, they're not seated. Okay, these are all reasons by which the sujud sahwi would be sunnah to perform. Okay, number 2, to forgetfully do an action that will nullify the prayer if it was done intentionally. Right? To forgetfully do an action that will nullify the prayer if it was done intentionally, and not every action, some actions. So like for example, if you intentionally added one more raka'at, okay, if you intentionally added one more raka'at, if you intentionally miss a rukun of the prayer, if you intentionally do these things, your prayer automatically nullified, batal, straight batal. If you do it on purpose, knowingly. But if you forgetfully do it, okay, so like for example, let me just write down. So what will this be? Let's put it in green. What will this be? Right, adding a rukun. Right, adding or leaving. right? Leaving a rukun. Right. In doing this, it would cause for your prayer to be nullified. Okay, a rukun or rakaat. Okay, so doing this intentionally nullifies your prayer immediately. Doing it forgetfully, then you realize, you remember, right? And then you stop doing it. I would call for sujud sahwi. Right. So for example, if someone sujud, they sit up, they read the dua, they sujud again, right? And then they sit up and they atahiyah, correct? And actually they're on their first rakaat. Right, they forgot. They're on their first rakaat. And then while doing atahiyah, like, why am I doing atahiyah? And think to themselves, I'm on my first rakaat lah. And with yakin that she's on her first rakaat. She knows she's on her first rakaat. Stop immediately, stand. Right? At the end of a prayer, she can go and perform sujud sahwi, because she added a rukun. She added a rukun to the prayer forgetfully. She had done this on purpose, that would have nullified her prayer. Or giving a rukun forgetfully. If it wasn't on purpose, it would have nullified her prayer. Okay? Alright. To recite a verbal, in this basically all there is, nothing else about like even like for example, there are things whereby if you do forgetfully, it would nullify your prayer anyway. Like for example, eating. If you eat forgetfully, it will nullify your prayer anyway. Right? So it's not under number 2. Right? Same thing about moving. If you move forgetfully more than 3 steps, it will nullify your prayer anyway. Right? If you move on purpose less than 3 steps, it will not nullify your prayer. So it's not under number 2 as well. Right? So these are all the things. Okay. To recite a verbal integral of the prayer in an inappropriate place. Okay, so here now comes the question: what are our verbal integrals? Right, what are the arkan al-qawli? Okay, the first one will be takbiratul ihram, which is highly mustahil, impossible that you're going to do it somewhere else. Right? That means you're going to do your takbiratul ihram at the beginning of your prayer. Right? It's highly unlikely you're doing it somewhere else. Okay, so takbir. Right, takbiratul ihram. Right, which highly chances you're not going to do it anywhere else. Number 2, Fatiha. Okay, possible Fatiha. To recite Fatiha in an inappropriate place. So for example, and this can possibly happen, if someone's praying seated, and you're praying seated, you can get confused. Right? That happened to me before. So, right, that you're praying seated, because there's no difference between you're sitting and you're standing. You're still sitting. Correct? So it could be that you go up from sujood and you're supposed to be seated, but you assume you're standing. Right? So you stand Allahu Akbar, put your hand up. You read Fatiha, you ruku', right? And then you i'tidal, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, then you sujud. All seated on the chair. You're all on the chair. And then Allahu Akbar. And then Allahu Akbar. Okay, now you're supposed to go Allahu Akbar, stand up, right? All the way. Okay. So or maybe now you're supposed to do a tahiyah. Right? So you're supposed to go Allahu Akbar and supposed to do a tahiyah. You assume you're standing. So you Allahu Akbar and then Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. So you begin to recite Surah Fatiha, whereas in the prayer you're actually seated, not standing. I mean, you're not in your standing position, but you're in a tahiyah position. But you're confused, like you confuse the whole thing. So instead of reading Fatiha where you're supposed to read Fatiha, you actually move the Fatiha to another position in the prayer. It could be happen if you're standing. Like for example, you Sami Allahu liman hamidah i'tidal. Then you, for some reason, you read Fatiha. Like Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You go all the way into Fatiha. Right? Not focused lah. Hayal. Right? So, Fatiha. What are our other verbal integrals? At-Tahiyah. At-Tahiyah. Right? Which under the At-Tahiyah comes the salams on the Prophet. On the Prophet comes the Shahada, right? And comes the Salawat. These are all the verbal integrals, And the tahiyya comes the salam, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin, and then shahada, and then the salawat, right, on to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, right. Usually the shahada and salawat, they put it as number, all under number 3, salawat they put as number 4. Okay, so when you read books, you'll say 5 verbal integrals of the prayer. They'll say 5, right, because they count at-tahiyya, salams, and shahada all under 1. Okay, and then number 5 will be salams. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, so if let's say a person after 2 rak'ats is supposed to pray 4 rak'ats zuhur, after 2 rak'ats, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, forgot. So they have said the salams in a place we're not supposed to say the salams. So when they realize what they have done, they continue praying. At the end of their prayer, they just sujud sahwi. Okay, that means you read a verbal integral in where you're not supposed to read the verbal integral. If one is doing first tahiyya and can't remember if it's the second or actually third rakat, what should one do? Then you act on your yaqeen. Okay, you act on your yaqeen. If you are doing your first tahiyya and you can't remember is this second or third, then you yaqeen at least it's second. Your yaqeen is what? Your yaqeen is at least it's second. So you act on that. And so you continue from as if it is second. Okay? You continue from as if it is second. Alright. Okay. To perform a physical integral with the possibility of it being an extra integral. So I did the question just now lah. Right. So you forgot how many sujuds you did. Right. You like how long? I forgot 2 or 1 sujud. Right. So you add more. You add 1 more in case. Just in case you're deficient. It's better to do extra than to do deficient. Right. So same thing like you can't remember, is this a 4th raka'at or the 3rd raka'at? Cannot remember. 4th or 3rd. But you know, at very minimum, it must be at least 3. Because you remember doing 2. So it's either this the 3rd one or the 4th one. So you take the yaqeen. What is your yaqeen? You have at least done 2. This is your 3rd one. So you act on that. And so you go 1 more raka'at on the 4th. Okay? Alright. Yes.
So do we stop whatever we were doing so that we do the rak'at? Wherever we are, when it occurred to us that we, I'm not sure, is it whatever we're doing, we just stop and then we start again, is it?
No. Right, so basically, usually you think of whether you're in the 3rd or 4th rak'at when you're wondering what to do next. Correct. You're probably at the end, coming to the end of a rak'at, and you're wondering, am I supposed to at-tahiyya now or supposed to stand up? Usually this happens at the end of your rak'at. Correct. You're wondering, should you stand or should you sit? You forgot, right? You forgot whether it's tahiyya sekarang, whether now it's at-tahiyya or now it's stand. Right? So you because basically you're confused. Are you on your 3rd that will require for you to stand, or are you on your 4th that will require you to at-tahiyya? You're confused about that. Okay? So your yaqeen is 3rd. Right? So stand and do 1 more rak'at. Okay?
Okay, let's say we are not doing the tahiyat. We are not at that point, kan? We are earlier in the rak'at. We are about to begin so-called the 3rd rak'at. But then we're not sure, I'm beginning 3rd rak'at or am I beginning 4th rak'at?
Then you take it that you're doing right now your 3rd rak'at.
And you just continue, je?
You just continue, yes.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, any other questions on this? On sujud sahwi. Let me see the footnotes at the bottom. The footnote at the bottom, sujud sahwi, even if there are numerous reasons for it, for it in one prayer is only 2 sajdas. So you don't like even if you made a lot of mistakes in your prayer, you'd only do 1 sujud sahwi. You don't do several sujud sahwis. Right? If one misses the sunnah ab'ad, the main sunnahs, even purposely, one performs sujud sahwi. If one misses anything besides a rukun, or sunnah ab'ad mean sunnah, then one does not prostrate for it. If one misses anything besides a rukun or sunnah ab'ad, then one does not prostrate for it. If one forgets the first tashahhud and stands up, it is not permissible to return to it. If one intentionally returns to it, it invalidates your prayer. But if one returns to it absent-mindedly out of ignorance, one merely prostrates for it, though one must stand up as soon as one remembers. Okay. 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 This is to clarify what is number 51. Alright, so if you miss a sunnah ab'ad, right? If you miss a sunnah ab'ad, you cannot go back to it unless you're not far from it. So for example, I mentioned this before, right? Revision, not revision, kan? So if let's say, okay, on the story of the kunut, okay, kunut. Okay, so you're standing, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, standing. All right. The next position from standing to from i'tidal is sujud. Correct? There's the next sujud. There's the next position, sujud. Okay. So if you left your kunut forgetfully, it's only when it's forgetfully. Okay, forgetfully. Only when you left your kunut forgetfully, right, and you begin to move down towards sujud. For as long as you've not gone beyond the ruku' position, as long as you've not gone beyond the ruku' position, and you remember your kunut, you can stand back up and do kunut. You can stand back up and do kunut, but on the condition you forgot. If you left it on purpose, so you're standing, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, you're standing, right? And you're thinking, should I do kunut? Don't wanna, lazy, right? So tired, sleepy. Okay, so you decided in yourself you don't want to do kunut. You begin to move down, right, to sujud. Then while you're moving, you think to yourself, I should just do it lah. You know, I shouldn't be lazy about this. It's a sunnah mu'akkadah. You cannot go stand. You cannot go backwards already. Right? Why? Because on purpose you left it. On purpose you left it. Right? So however, if you forgetfully left it, if you've gone beyond the ruku' position, then you cannot go back. You need to continue with your sujood. Okay. Same thing if let's say you're on the atahiyah. Right? Atahiyah. Right? The first atahiyah. Okay, first atahiyah. Now first atahiyah is going the other way around, kan? Right? You're going backwards. So from sujood to sitting, and you do your atahiyah. And so if someone were to forgetfully miss out atahiyah, and so from sujood they stand. Which is why it is sunnah, right, to always sit after sujood. Because in case you like, atahiyah, then you're already sitting, what? So just continue doing it. Right? So if someone after sujood, I forgot atahiyah and they begin to stand, if they have not gone beyond the ruku' position and they remember the atahiyah, the first atahiyah, they can sit. They can sit and perform the atahiyah. But if they've gone beyond the ruku' position and they're on their way to standing and they remember, they cannot patah balik. They cannot go back. Right? If they left it on purpose, no chance really. The moment they left it on purpose, they must continue with their actions and finish the rukun. Okay? If someone misses a rukun in the prayer, if you miss a rukun in your prayer, the moment you remember it, you must perform it. Okay, we mentioned this earlier on. Right, the moment you remember that you missed the rukun in your prayer, you must perform it. Right, so for example, so there is no sujud sahwi for a missed rukun. Right, there is no sujud sahwi for a missed rukun. You must perform the rukun if you know that you missed it out. Right, if you do extra rukun, then there is sujud sahwi. But missed rukun, no, you must perform it. Right, so if let's say someone were to sujud, then they sit, alright, and then or maybe they sujud one time and they stand. They didn't sit, they didn't sujud second time round. So they missed out two rukuns of the first sitting and the second sujud. They stand up, then they forgot, then they stand up. And then while they're standing, they remember. Or while they're ruku, they remember. Hey, just now I only did one sujud. They didn't do a sitting nor a second sujud. They immediately go and sit and perform their sitting and then perform their sujud. Why? Because every movement in the prayer is only valid if the previous movement was valid. Right? Every movement in the prayer is only sah. Remember remember the qaida, remember the principle. Every movement in the prayer is only valid if the previous movement was valid. Okay? So you have not done the previous movement completely, if you've not done it completely, then how can the next movement be valid? Doesn't make sense. Okay. So that's why he says if one does anything besides a rukun or sunnah ab'ad, then you don't prostrate for it. So anything else in the prayer that you miss out, that is not a rukun and is not a sunnah ab'ad. What, like for example, what? For example, reciting a surah after Fatiha. Right? A surah after Fatiha is not an ab'ad and it's not a rukun. If you miss it out in the first 2 rak'ats, doesn't matter. It really does not matter. Right? I mean, you miss out the reward lah. It matters in that sense. Like, you miss out the reward. Right? But there's no sujud for it. There's no, or if let's say in your standing, you would for example, you forgot dua iftitah, right? Or whatever it is, or you forgot to do your subhana rabbiyal azim wa bihamdi when you ruku'. The kind of things, if you forget, dala, you have missed out the reward. If one forgets the first tashahhud and stands up, it's not permissible to return to it, meaning that you have already stood. Okay? If you intentionally return to it, then this will invalidate your prayer. So if you already stood up, right, and you go back down, cannot. Right? That would nullify your prayer. But if you return it absent-mindedly or out of ignorance, then you do a sujood sahwi after that. But if you remember that you're not supposed to be doing this, then you must quickly go and stand up. Okay, number 2, turning the head, taking 1 or 2 steps, lengthening a short interval like i'tidal or a little speech, provided there is no type of action without it is not the type of action whose unintentional performance also invalidates the prayer, such as much speech or action, since doing it would in any case invalidate the prayer. As I mentioned about that, right? About what would invalidate the prayer, such as reciting part or all of Surah Fatiha or Tashahhud at the wrong place. Does not apply to the tasbihat even though one did so purposely. Right? So it's the saying Subhana Rabbiyal Azim wa bihamdi does not apply there. Right? Even if you did it on purpose. Right? When one is uncertain whether he or she has prayed 3 rak'ahs or 4, you should assume that he did not perform the 4th one. Right? That means you act on your yaqeen. Right? So you're not too sure it is 3rd or 4, you act on 3rd. And you do 1 more rak'at. Okay. Alright, the sunnah ab'ad here, let's go through the 7 of them. Right? To read the first tashahhud, to sit in the tashahhud, to salawat onto Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the first tashahhud. Also, I missed out this part, number 4. Right? Salawat onto the family in the final tashahhud. This is why I always miss out number 4, is because just do lah. Right? I mean, it's at the end of the prayer anyway. Right? So, what are you going to do after that? Correct? I mean, if you're right at the end of the prayer, if you miss out the salawat onto the family, salawat onto the family. Right? I mean, you're seated. So it's either you do sujood sahwi because you refuse to salawat onto the family, or you will salawat onto the family because you're in position. You're actually in position, correct? So you can't possibly leave it, right? You can't possibly leave it. Right? It's a matter of you choosing to salawat onto the family or choosing to perform sujood sahwi. Right? So usually number 4, if you're in that position, then salawat onto the family lah. Right? You have not left it yet. I mean, the chance to do it has not gone yet. Then number 5, kunut, salawat and salams onto the family, onto the Prophet, and then salawat and salams to the family of the Prophet in kunut. Salams on the family as well. So try the word salam come at the end. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad nabil ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa salim. It covers for all of them, right? The Prophet and his family. Okay. Right, sunnah ab'ad are those sunnah acts that if omitted can be compensated by sujood sahwi. On the other end, those sunnah acts that cannot be compensated by sujood sahwi are called sunnah hay'ah. Right, sunnah hay'ah is like, for example, holding your hand at your chest, raising the hand, doing takbir, that kind of thing. Sunnah hay'ah. If the imam left out the first tashahhud, it is not permissible for the follower to act contrary to the imam. I mean, the follower will also have to follow the imam in his act. If the imam left the first tashahhud, you also have to leave the first tashahhud. If the imam lengthens the first tashahhud for a valid reason and the follower completes the first tashahhud before the imam, the follower should not say anything else except dua. Just occupy himself with dua. Don't salawat to the family of Rasulullah for the first tashahhud, because that is only for the second tashahhud. The sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. Alright. Any other questions? Or any other sections that you want me to go through? Any other questions? I'll just keep doing this until no questions, and if there's still more time, we just do our Arabic lah. Maybe I'll demonstrate the paper to you all at the end of it. Okay, question. Conditions for Solat Jumaat is 40, excluding or including the Imam. Let me just go down to Solat Jumaat. Solat Jumaat. Solat Jumaat. Solat Jumaat. Okay, Solat Jumaat is 82. Okay. So 80, 81, 82. So Jumaat. So the conditions of Salat Jumaat are 6. The prayer must be performed in time of Zuhur. It should be within the district of a town, not on the outskirts, but in the town itself. Must be in Jama'ah. The 40 females are mature and permanent residents of the town. So you get footnote number 4. Permanent residents means that they live there. They do not leave except when they need to. The minimum, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, is 3 persons besides the Imam. There's Imam Abu Hanifa. For Imam Shafi'i, it is 40, including the Imam. Including the Imam. Okay, it's not here, but it is including the Imam. Okay. Okay. Any other question? Page 69.4. And how long of a pause invalidates the prayer? Okay, 69 up. Okay, 69 here. Alright, point 4. Unintentionally uttering before that, is it? Is there a footnote? Page 76. Wait. 69.4. Okay. Intentionally uttering 1 or 2 letters which can be clearly understood. Alright. So here, intentionally, uttering 1 or 2 letters can be clearly understood. Right. So, what's the footnote here? The footnote is 63. 63 here. The prayer is invalidated when 1 or 2 letters worth of sounds, there's laughter, crying, groaning, clearing the throat, blowing, sighing, or similar, are audible on condition they are done on purpose. They are done on purpose. If a need to cause arises involuntarily, a person should try his utmost to suppress it. However, after trying hard, the need still subsists. He may cough or for relief, even if a sound or 2 or more syllables are formed. That is because not on purpose. Right. So, for example, if there are any sounds that there's made, right, intentionally uttering 1 or 2 letters, you can be clearly understood. So, for example, right, saying in Arabic, it's all in Arabic. If you say in English, it will be nullified also, or Malay nullified also. So, for example, if you say qay, qay in Arabic is a qaf, if you kasra, qay, which means be careful. In Arabic, say qay, it means be careful. Right? If you say ayn, that means understand. There's some words in Arabic that basically has 1 letter, 1 letter to it. Right? There are those that have 2 letters, like qif, qul. It's all 1 letter words. If you say on purpose, right? Intentionally, these extra letters on purpose, they have meaning. straight away batal. Your prayer will be nullified straight away. If these words are not, they have no meaning to these words, right? So, like for example, you go like that. Okay, if it was done on purpose, batal, right? So if you pray, you're like on purpose, right? Or you go on purpose, right? Or you go or you laugh right, on purpose, or you cry for sound like that, on purpose. So all on purpose. If you do all of these sounds on purpose, batal. The prayer nullified. Okay, prayer nullified. Right. So even clearing the throat. Right. So something like blowing, sighing, groaning, laughter. So all whereby there are letters that come out of your mouth. Even sneezing. Right. If you on purpose make a loud sound when you sneeze. So whatever overcomes you, and it's not done on purpose, doesn't nullify your prayer. Whatever is done on purpose nullifies your prayer. Right. So for example, if you're sneezing and you go Ach! Like that, right, and you couldn't hold it in. Okay, that doesn't nullify your prayer. But if you on purpose, you go achum, you purposely do that, achum. Right, so again, in achum has a lot of letters in there. Right, there's an there's a ta, there's a shin, there's a mim. Right, a whole lot of letters going on in your achum. Right, so if you're doing it on purpose, then batal straight away. Right, so even to clear your throat on purpose, you know you're praying, and you feel a tickle in your throat, and you right, batal, your prayer is nullified. You cannot do it on purpose. Right, whatever you are you do neglectfully, not on purpose, or has overcome you, right, in doing it. Okay, hope that one is clear. About the question on how long would invalidate the prayer. Okay, if you hold your positions. Okay, so what are the short rukuns? The short rukuns are basically two. There are two short rukuns in the entire prayer. What are they? The short rukuns, they are i'tidal and the sujud, the sitting between the two sujuds. There are only two short rukuns in the salat. I'tidal and sitting between the two sujuds. Okay, lengthening the two of them, right, to what extent nullifies the prayer? So for i'tidal, lengthening your i'tidal beyond what is the sunnah to recite, right, is to lengthen it beyond what is the sunnah to recite from Rasulullah SAW, and also of kunut. So if you're doing a long kunut, it's okay. Right, the kunut is very long, is okay. Right, or if you're waiting in i'tidal, waiting for the imam to finish i'tidal, is okay as well. Alright, but you don't add on stuff to recite during your i'tidal. Okay, same thing for the sitting between the two sujuds. Alright, so sitting between the sujuds should only be what the Prophet taught us and nothing more. Only what the Prophet taught us and nothing more. Right, so if you pandai-pandai by yourself, very clever, you go and put in your own recitations in this place between the two sujuds, then that would lengthen it beyond what is supposed to be lengthened. However, there are opinions that say that even if you lengthen it, it does not nullify the prayer, but then you're doing something that is makruh. Right, but there are opinions that will say that it nullifies the prayer, right? To lengthen the short rukuns. So basically, do not recite beyond what is made part of the Sharia, the Sunnah of Rasulullah SAW. Do not go beyond that, right? So whatever you learn in books, that is basically what is from the Prophet SAW. And most of us don't even do the full thing for i'tidal. I'tidal, the full recitation is quite long from Rasulullah SAW. Right, we just do the minimum one. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Most people do that. And then if you want to go a bit more, Rabbana lakal hamd, okay, a bit more. حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه من السماوات ومن الأرض وما في شئت من شيء بعده, and then أهل النجد, and there is more after that as well. أحق ما قال العبد. Right, after that, if you want to continue into the du'as of i'tidal, and then also with kunut. Right, so basically i'tidal can be quite long, right, but as long as you keep to what is from the Sharia. You don't put in your own stuff. your own zikirs, right? But for kunut, yes, you can put in your own kunut. As you can see how Habib Omar does it during Ramadan, he will have his own very long, lengthy dua for kunut. Can it is permissible. Okay, for sitting between the two sujuds, there's nothing beyond Rabbi fili warhamni wajbuni warfa'ni warzuqni wahdini wa'afini wa'afu anni. There's nothing beyond that. There's it one time and then sujud. So don't like decide for yourself, oh, it's too short, I'm going to do it 3 times. No, you can't do that. You do it one time and sujud after that. Okay, page 76.89. Page 76. What are we on? What page are we on? Page 76. Page 76. Can I see the page? Page 76.89. 75, 76. Okay, 89. Here, a person Alright. A person who is offering a fardu prayer cannot follow a person who is offering the khusuf, right, or kusuf, an eclipse prayer. The jama'ah is valid when one, the imam is performing a fard and the follower is performing a sunnah, or vice versa. The imam is performing the zuhur and the follower is praying subuh, or vice versa. The imam is praying while sitting, the follower is standing, or vice versa. For the imam is performing qada while the follower is the ma'mum is performing the correct one, or vice versa. So basically, this point number 9 is that the imam and the ma'mum must be on the same pattern of prayer. And what is pattern of prayer? It means the prayer must have the same template somewhat. Okay, same template somewhat. Okay, so which basically brings you to only 2 types of prayers that cannot be done differently. So which is basically the eclipse prayer, right, and the janazah prayer. Okay, all other prayers are on the same template. All other prayers are on the same template. What I mean by template? Template is like this: stand, ruku', i'tidal, sujud, sit, sujud. Okay, that is called 1 raka'at. That is called a template, right? So every raka'at will continue in doing it this way. Some raka'ats have extra sitting down, like at-tahiyah, and some don't. That is extra. Okay, that is extra. But the standard prayer, it goes like this, right? Stand, ruku', i'tidal, sujud, sit, sujud. Right? That is the standard prayer. Okay, there are 2 prayers that don't follow this standard. Right? The first one is the eclipse prayer. The eclipse prayer is stand, ruku', stand with citations, ruku', then i'tidal. Okay, the eclipse prayer has 2 standings and 2 ruku'as. Alright, so if someone's praying the eclipse prayer, you cannot come in as a jama'ah and then you niyat zuhur. You cannot intend zuhur behind someone who's praying the eclipse prayer, and the other way as well, because you're on different templates. Okay, even if you say, but I'm going to come in on the second standing, right? I wouldn't mind second standing, not clash with the eclipse prayer. No, cannot, because the prayers are not on the same template. You can't do that. Right? The other prayer that is like this is also the janazah prayer. Janazah prayer only has 1 standing. It's all standing and then takbir, salam. Correct? There's no ruku', there's no sujud, nothing. So you cannot stand behind the janazah prayer and say, okay, I'm going to niyat zuhur behind the janazah prayer. Cannot. Even if you say, no, I'm going to come in the last takbir I'm going to come in. No, cannot. Cannot. But this tells you also that you can imam ma'mum with different niyats. The imam can have a different niyat from the ma'mum. Right? So the imam can very well niyat sunat zuhur and the ma'mum niyat fardu zuhur. Or the imam can niyat asar and the ma'mum niyat maghrib. Right? The imam can very well niyat qada isha and the ma'mum can very well niyat fardu ada and isha. right? Doesn't matter. You can have completely different niyats. Completely different niyats doesn't matter. There is a khilaf amongst the scholars that having different niyats is makruh to do that, and it causes for the reward of jama'ah to be diminished, right? To go away. It causes for the reward of jama'ah to go away. Allahu alam, mashallah. But then you can do it anyway. But so the prayer is valid. The prayer is valid. Whether or not you get the reward for jama'ah is a different question, and that one only for Allah to decide lah for you. Okay. I hope I answered that question. Let me get the other one.
That means if the imam sits and the followers can follow also, the imam can be seated.
Yes, the imam can be seated. Yes, correct. But if you're able to stand, you must stand for Fardhu prayers. Yes, you can pray your Fardhu prayers behind an imam who is sitting. Even an imam who is lying down if you want to, right? But of course it's best, like afdal is best if the imam can stand, and somebody there can stand and pray, and they should be the imam. Okay, page 69, footnote 65. Page 69. 69, up a bit more. Page 69, footnote 65. Okay, so 65, the prayer is invalidated even if a little substance reaches the body cavity intentionally, intentionally. It also invalidates the prayer if it occurs absentmindedly or ignorance of its prohibition, provided the amount of a substance is commonly acknowledged to be much, though not invalidated if it was little. So this is on the points of eating. Correct? On point of eating in the prayer. So you go back to the text itself, 65, to forgetfully eat a lot. Right? So what is the meaning of eat a lot? A lot basically means, so there is forgetfully. So if somebody were to eat something on purpose, I'm gonna highlight this, right? So if it is intentional, on purpose, intentional. So no matter how much you eat, even if it's one tiny drop of fluid, or if it's one tiny, black seed or sesame seed, if it's intentional, will nullify the prayer. On purpose, you swallowed it nullifies the prayer. Okay, for most people, this happens with phlegm. Right? High chances you're not going to be eating food from your hands into your mouth when you're praying. You're praying. You won't be putting bread into your mouth, correct? Right? But where people will fall into this is phlegm from the throat. Right? So if the phlegm from the throat were to come out onto your mouth, onto your tongue, okay, it comes out onto your tongue. They say at the makhraj of your kaf or cough, right? So that part is on your tongue. It's not in your throat, It's on your tongue. You can actually very easily remove it. So you don't even have to pull it out. Okay, so so what is the condition? The phlegm came out onto your tongue in a way you don't have to suck it out. Like if let's say it's stuck at your throat, right? You have to, right? You might have to do that. You know how they did it kind of sound. They go, right? They will try and pull it out. Correct? Okay. If you have to do that, right, that means that one is not wajib for you to actually remove. But the moment you try to pull it out, you must pull it out already. Okay. The moment you try to pull it out, the moment you like, there's something in my throat, and then you go, right? The moment you try, you must throw it out already. But if it's in your throat, you're like, can I reach it? You cannot reach. It's quite inside. It means you have to put in effort to pull it out. That means can swallow. Okay, that means can swallow. But if you cough, and the whole thing came onto your tongue. Now it's on your tongue. You cannot swallow it back in. It's already on your tongue. You must spit it out. So if you swallow that intentionally, your prayer batal. Your prayer nullified. Straight away nullified. Okay. What about doing it absent-mindedly or ignorance of its prohibition? Okay, so if someone finds like a small, seed in their teeth or some chocolate in their teeth, and they use their tongue and they pull it out, or chicken or whatsoever found in their mouth, and they pull it out, right? If the amount is a lot, right? So this is under what? Under absent-mindedly, right? Or ignorance of the law. which none of you are. Right now, dah belajar. You have already learnt it here, so you don't fall under being ignorant. Okay, but if somebody were to say to you, then you're like, do you know of the law? They're like, no, what law? Okay, then like ignorant. They are ignorant. Okay, Allah has mercy, right, on them, inshallah, but they must learn. Okay, also if it's absent-mindedly. So if you're praying, then you swallow something that was from your teeth, and some food was from your teeth. Okay, if the amount is not a lot, and what is the meaning of not a lot, right? Not acknowledged to be much, right? What is little? Little, basically, for food, right? What is smaller than a sesame seed? It's tiny amount. For water or for fluids, right? For fluids, what is smaller than 1 drop? Okay, so if it's 1 drop of fluid enter into your throat, doesn't nullify your prayer if it was done not on purpose, absent-mindedly, subconsciously, whatever it is. Okay, but if it was more than 1 drop, even if it was not done on purpose, nullifies your prayer. If it was bigger than a sesame seed, even if it was done on not on purpose, nullifies your prayer. Okay, so absent-mindedly is only forgiven if it's as small as a sesame seed or as little as 1 drop of fluid. It's highly unlikely to happen. Usually, if you swallow anything in your tongue, in your mouth, usually the amount is quite an amount, right? Like phlegm or food, like if you have chocolate stuck in your teeth, it mixes with your saliva. It's going to be more than 1 drop, right, of substance entering into your mouth. Okay, Alhamdulillah. There's one more question here. Some imams usually further with a pause in between the verses at Sunnah, or should the Fatiha be recited continuously? Okay, there are different opinions to this. Okay, if they want to pause, it's up to them. It's okay. It's okay to pause. So they can go Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillah, but not too long. They shouldn't be pausing for too long, right? But the Sunnah, right, is to actually try and do the entire Fatiha in 1 breath, if you're able to, or every ayat in 1 breath, right? So every ayat in 1 breath, so not to break ayats apart. So especially last ayat, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Okay, the whole last ayat, one breath. Ameen. Okay, so you take 7 breaths for Fatiha. Right, but then there is a sunnah of doing the whole thing in 1 breath if you are able to do it. Right. But not to have a long pause between the ayats. Right, just a slight pause is okay. Okay. Any other question? Any other question? Any other question?
Ustazah, okay, if we are praying and then halfway through or something, a strand of hair was blowing in our eyes. Do we take that as batal already?
Okay, depends. Depends. So if a strand of hair is blowing your eyes, right, you don't batal straight away. You lift your hand and you hold the strand and you pull on it. Okay, you pull on it. If the strand pulls all the way out, then it's not even connected to your head. It's a loose hair, right? Tak batal. It's a loose hair. Okay, but if you pull and then it's still rooted. Okay, the hair is rooted, right? So you're gonna think, okay, where is the pain coming from? If the pain is coming from a part of your face, you have facial hair, right? Here and here. The facial hair, if coming from part of your face, then this facial hair is not aurat. So continue your prayer. But if the pain is coming from part of your head, here, right, that means the head hair, that means it's aurat, batal. Okay, so don't batal straight away, just make sure where the hair is coming from. Sekali it's not a hair, it's a thread. Very nice, mashallah. Okay, page 70, footnote 70. Page 70, footnote 70. Alright. Page 70, footnote 70. Okay, let me just go back up to where it is. So here, to precede the Imam in two physical integrals of the prayer, that means to be ahead of the Imam by two physical integrals. Number 70, to complete two integrals before the Imam does invalidate the prayer. If one does so absent-mindedly or in ignorance of his prohibition, it does not invalidate the prayer, but the rak'at is not counted, and he must now add an additional rak'at after the Imam finishes with salam to complete the prayer. Okay, so basically, for example, Imam standing. This person, for some reason, wants to be ahead of the Imam. So the person ruku'. Ruku' is one physical integral ahead of the Imam. Imam still standing. The person i'tidal. I'tidal is two rukuns ahead of the Imam. Still haven't batalat because he must finish the rukun. Imam still standing. Person moves to sujood. The moment the person moves to sujood, that means he has completed two movements ahead of the Imam. His prayer batal if he is aware of the ruling and is doing it on purpose. If he does it absent-mindedly or is ignorant of his prohibition, right, then after he realizes, so probably ignorant you won't know until you finish the entire prayer, but absent-mindedly. So the minute the person, ruku', i'tidal, Imam still standing, then they sujood, right? Then when in sujood he was like, why am I ahead of the Imam? I'm ma'mum, I'm not Imam, right? And then he realized that he was ahead of the Imam for more than two rukuns. Then what does he do? He actually does not count the rak'at, right? But he quickly joins the Imam where the Imam is at. Then he will do one more. That means whatever he did, right, earlier than the Imam, it's not counted. It's not counted. However he did ahead of the Imam, it is not counted. The raka'at that he did ahead of the Imam is not counted, but he has to do another raka'at now, right? After the Imam salams, you do one more raka'at. So whatever raka'at he does ahead of the Imam, so let's say he finishes one whole raka'at in front of the Imam, that raka'at is not counted. He must just do one more after that. If he does this absent-mindedly or forgetfully or ignorantly, but if he does this on purpose, then batal, the prayer batal. Okay, I hope that is clear. 73. 73. Okay, 73. Page 73 or footnote 73? I think footnote.
Page 70, footnote 70.
Okay, page 70, footnote 73. Okay, not to know whether one has terminated or not means one hesitates in one's heart saying, should I stop praying or should I continue? The mere thought of saying, should I stop or should I continue during the prayer has no consequence, like the occurrence of a doubt that negates one's resolve and certainty is what is considered here. Right, so basically, you see you're praying, right, and then you're like, should I stop praying or should I not stop praying? Okay, the moment you say that, right, that's okay, and because you're just thinking, right? But if you are this under here and I'm dotting examination, right? So if you're going batal or not? Did my prayer batal or not batal? Is it terminated? Is it nullified or not nullified? Nullified or not nullified? Now you are uncertain if your prayer is valid. The moment you are uncertain if your prayer is valid, your prayer is invalid. Because certainty in the prayer is a condition of the prayer. You have to be certain that your prayer is still valid. Right? So it's basically the doubt. Okay. But also, if someone goes on in their head, should I stop? Should I not stop? Should I stop? Should I not stop? Should I stop? Should I stop? Okay, that one also will nullify your prayer. Right, to actually do that in your head. So you hear a doorbell, you're thinking, should I stop praying? Not stop praying? Stop praying? Not stop praying? Technically, you have left the prayer because your heart is already kind of left the prayer. Okay, if you keep doing that. But if it happens at one time in your head because of distraction, then you just dismiss it, and your prayer is okay. Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah.
So that means practically you cannot doubt it.
You cannot doubt your prayer at all.
Okay.
Correct. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, right, I'll show you how, like the previous paper is, the rope is in the hand, the prayer is invalid, but if under the feet and the prayer is still valid. Is it correct? Correct. Right, so number 36, page 36, page 36, 36. 36. 36. Okay, so 36, foot number 6. The prayer is invalid if it's holding the end of the rope connected to something that is impure. So if you're holding the rope, right, and the rope is connected to like a child with the tea diaper, then it is invalid. But you put it under your feet and you're standing on it, it is valid, right? So you cannot hold it, right? You cannot hold it in your hand. Okay, all right, alhamdulillah. If I find my document, I will share it with you all. But for now, I cannot find it. I think it's in another Google Docs. Don't know where it is. So if I find it, I will show you to you all lah, inshallah. But right now, I cannot find it. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no other questions at all, okay lah, then I think give you all an early break so you can revise. So any further questions, just ask me lah, inshallah. Right, so I'll just be here. Right, so we'll end our class there. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha.